if my music library on YouTube Music had a government system, John Mayer would be the mayor.
John is the mayor.
And then Lionel Richie would be the judicial branch, and the executive branch.
No, he'd be the upper class white guy in the suburbs because he is Lionel Richie. Or maybe he'd be the zookeeper since I'm sorry.
You're literally killing him.
Even in your Spotify fantasy, Lionel Richie can't be black. We can cut this out. Hey Sam.
Hi Dylan.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm not sick anymore. I was sick last episode.
Yeah, I'm sick now.
You're sick? Did I give it to you?
Probably.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's my thought is, do you, as a kid, were you ever like, man, I can't, I'm sick today. I'm so excited to be sick today. Or like,
no, because
really?
you know why? Because I was homeschooled, and so it didn't matter. I still had to go to school.
You still had to go to school.
Yeah,
no.
I know. It was...
No. Oh, because like, for me, being sick was like, if it wasn't that bad, I was like, you know what? I could probably...
I can live with this.
I could convince my parents, and then I'd watch Tom and Jerry all day.
See, I like being babied, and so I like... I take advantage... I take advantage of like the sick days to get like let my mom like baby me. But as I got older, she stopped doing it, and that just made me sad. So now I'm just sad when I'm sick. Yeah. But you brought me some medical drugs.
I baby you a little bit. I'm here to baby you, baby.
Medical drugs.
Medical drugs.
Okay.
They were over the counter. But yes, they were drugs. So you know.
Yes, sir.
Always good to have legal
Should we
drugs.
start this
I think
train?
So. Probably. Let's do it. So, do we do? Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Pearson. I am, not the host, but the co-host of this podcast.
And I'm not the host, but the co-host, Sam Phillips.
Yeah. Today, we are so excited to be able to introduce one of the coolest people we know, a wonderful guest. Her name is going to be Willow Smith.
Willow Smith, everybody. Not the famous one though.
Not the famous. Well,
Not yet.
Not yet. Hey, that's true.
Smith yet. Yeah. She is not a child of the Smiths.
Of Will Smith?
Of Will Smith.
Isn't that funny? Will Smith and Willow Smith?
Is actually something...
They planned that. They did. No, I'm not even joking. That's why, because it's Jada and Jaden and Will and Willow.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't they have that one other kid too that he had with his first wife?
Yeah, no one really
Doesn't
cares
count.
about.
Poor guy.
Literally, like, not even Will cares about. I mean, Will does love him, obviously. I'm not prescribing to anything, but, like, comparative to what he promotes with Jaden, and, like, literally makes Jaden a movie star, and then he just has this 22-year-old.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't want to be in the spotlight, you know?
That's also true. Honestly,
interesting.
God bless. Thank God for him.
Yeah.
Being in the
What a refreshing thing.
Yeah. That's
None of us can relate.
None of us can relate. Music school. So Willow, actually kind of ties me into the first, kind of question we want to be able to talk to you about, and that was your name. Is there a story behind your name? It's a very pretty name. It's a wonderful
Willow.
And unique name. Yeah.
Weeping Willow.
Weeping. Well, when you put it like that.
hopefully
if you
not
ever came up with an
Willow.
album, that would be like a sick, like a breakup album. Weeping
cool.
Willow.
Weeping Willow. And then the next one is Bending Willow.
Okay. That's a little over the edge of.
No, Bending Willow is my OnlyFans. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I know, it's because
Bleep that
willow
out,
trees
Sam.
bend. I'm not, okay. You guys, hold up. For once, my mind is out of the gutter.
Good job.
Say, freaking, tell your story about your name, Will.
We want to hear it. Go.
Jeez.
I mean, there is no, like, super deep story, but my mom, there were a bunch of different names that she was going to pick out for me. There was either going to be Willow, Rowan, or Calypso.
Oh,
and
cool.
so, yeah, they're
Calypso.
all... Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It sounds like
that's a Greek god.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Or Norse.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not Norse.
But definitely...
Norse is like the like that's like Thor.
Yeah.
I was thinking...
Thor and Calypso.
No. Yeah, that's definitely Greek.
Oh. Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Definitely. Those are fun names. That definitely my brother-in-law has, his name is Reed, and it's Reed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's watching. But
Probably
their
not.
story his uncle just picked it out, and there's a story beneath it, but he's very nature orientated. So it's interesting to hear the unique names that people have, and it's like, no, sometimes they are just gorgeous names because the people naming them were particularly creative in that way. So that's really cool. But it brings us to, we've already touched on it a little bit, but your name sounds very similar to someone who is already a big force.
It's not even sounds very similar.
Yeah, no, it sounds,
it's the exact same.
Exact same as someone.
Yeah.
And so you had expressed to us before, and a lot of people, you're here because you have big ambitions for your career, you have big ambitions for who you want to be, and so we talked about this a little bit before earlier today, but what are some of your thoughts on having a stage name, and maybe how your name will affect your ability to create a name for yourself and for yourself in this industry?
I think that honestly, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because people quite often remember my name, especially since it is Willow Smith. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, your name is the same! Oh my gosh, it's Willow Smith." But on the other hand, I have gone to auditions and things like that, and I've had people within the music industry tell me, you're never gonna make it in the music industry with that name.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Have you had that happen to you, Sam?
I haven't had people tell me I'm not going to make it, but recently in my music business course, he was like, yeah, you're going to have to change it, the spelling. Usually people either, take on a whole different name, a stage name, or they will, change the spelling. So I'm considering, or I actually have already decided my stage name change spelling is I took one of the L's out of Phillips. And so, hey, that's you could take one of the L's out of Willow, W-I-L-O-W,
You could be Will Ow Phillips. So it's just W-I-L
Will Ow Smith.
Smith. Will Ow
Yeah.
Smith.
Maybe
Or you
I could just
drop the Smith.
Actually, I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, I'll go just by Willow. But every time I see Willow Smith's music, I never actually see it under the name of Willow Smith. I only ever see it under the name of Willow.
Oh,
and so
that's what her brother Jaden Smith did. He just changed it to just Jaden.
And so it's like both of those names are taken up. But I think, honestly, I don't know how that would actually work, because that's like saying that no one else in the entire music industry could have the name Willow, and that doesn't seem to make sense to me.
No.
Right.
No. And it's difficult because it's purely from the basis of branding and of recognition. And so understanding that part of the personal brand that you build is your name. And and with a stage name that comes the idea of, a lot of people think people have stage names because they want their identity to be protected. But, the fact of the matter is there's also a business side to it. And there's also a genuine side to it. What would, if you came up with a stage name, would you be willing to talk about, what would that be, and what would be some of the motivations outside of, recognition and setting yourself apart from?
I think there's a couple things, just quickly going back to that point of, no one in the industry could have that same name. If we look at, actors, for example, how many Chris's are there? Commonplace names. I think that the only reason that I've been told oh, you can't have that name is because Willow isn't as common of a name, and so it's considered distinct and unique now, but I don't think that would necessarily be the case down the road. And additionally, for taking on a stage name, I don't really know what that would be. I've thought that I might need to at some point have a stage name, but I haven't actually considered it. And I've never particularly felt, super closely connected to my name in the sense of Willow is who I am. But I think that actually recently I've developed more close to it. I feel like it is more me. Yeah. Especially since I've gotten to college, and I don't think I don't want to change me. I don't want to. Sure. Yeah, I don't want to say I am someone who I'm not, and so, yeah.
If you think about it in terms of song names, right? You have Hello by Lionel Richie, then you have Hello by Adele, then you have Halo by Beyonce, right? And everybody knows what you're talking about, and they all are, did well, even though they had a prior successor.
They're so distinct.
Yeah, and so I think that it can work like that with names. Names are so personal and emotional. like they define who you are, and I don't think that you should be forced to change it. And
Yeah.
that's totally wrong what that person said to you about like you're not gonna make it
in the music
because
industry,
of that.
because of a name.
Like, you know, there's already been 2 famous Sam Phillips.
Yeah.
Says, you know, the guy who worked with Elvis, I think, or maybe it was Michael Jackson, I forget, and then the famous female singer-songwriter. So
When that it leads, it reminds me. So I've auditioned for like American Idol before because it came into town. We were like, let's do it.
yeah, you did.
And
Awesome.
so I chose the wrong song. I did "Sunshine on My Shoulders" by John Denver, and let me tell you, literally three measures in, the guy put his hand. He's like,
Oh no.
And I kept going because I was going to
Dylan.
do the first chorus, and I was like, oh, okay. I could have just stopped, but no, I did the whole thing because he was going to listen to me because he was there. So I was entitled to it, but you know.
I think that's part of like the music industry though, is like you just have to keep going, and
Yeah.
especially as a performer, even when you know that you've like maybe messed up like within an actual performance, you just have to keep going.
You have to keep going through, and because it I mean, the amount that goes into a performance, you don't want to have to stop it and like re-put it in, but it's just, I don't know, it's a principle of it. Everyone knows you messed up, so you can either stop everything and restart, or keep going through it.
Keep going, keep pushing.
know?
Yeah.
And keep going through it, I think, shows more confidence in the ability to be able to be like, no, I'm just going to keep going. I acknowledge, like, yeah, that happened, but like I'm going to finish this song, and I'm going to finish it well.
Yeah.
Same thing happens if you want to restart it. It's all personal preference to the performance. But back to the audition, there was, I remember watching this girl go up, and she was in this sequins pantsuit. She looked great. She looked amazing. Before she even started singing, the guy said, yeah, she's going to make it through. And we were like, really? And he was a roadie who had worked this show for years. He said, yeah, she'll make it through.
Wow.
And we were like, why is she going to make it through? She sang, she got down, she did all the, movements that you'd expect from a pop star, and instantly, right as he said it, she got through. We were like, how did you know? And he said, she dressed the part, she acted the part. She was a pop star in the making. Doesn't matter from that point on. She looks interesting, she looks eye-catching, she's appealing. And so I feel like that's something that's always so interesting, is you can have, and I love you, man, I love you, but your name is Sam Phillips, and it's not something that like grabs you and catches you versus like Beyonce or like Willow Smith. It's like not something that is so different and out of the common lexicon.
No. I mean, as we've seen, there's 50 Sams at Belmont.
Sams, yeah.
So
There's Sam Smith at Belmont.
There's Sam, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was actually in my TT group.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
that's funny.
Thanks for dropping by, Sam. We appreciate it. But I just think that's a really interesting part of the industry, is trying to brand yourself through that.
I think that's so much more than talent, especially in the pop industry, which is what I'm going to be pursuing. It's much more creating a persona, a personality, who you are, rather than just, what talent you have. Because there are incredibly talented people that aren't famous. They don't have that platform that, other people might say that they should, simply because they either haven't had the proper exposure in like a certain context, or they haven't developed a strong enough persona or personality that like grabs people.
Right. Okay, side tangent. Did you know that apparently the flu that goes around the college campuses is called the Frat Flu?
I hate that.
I hate that so much. It's like, I got the college coughs, the sorority shivers.
This is why we do our episodes in the morning. I'm so loopy.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
What was it? The BFA blushes. That stands for throwing.
Wait. Okay, so I'm sorry. You guys are in, not you. You are in Patton. Is the letter true?
I don't know.
Okay.
Landon thinks it is, and I'm skeptical.
I don't
We're
think
not
it is.
talking about the letter, though.
We're not. Okay. Just as a context,
That
not full context, but if you are so inclined, I guess you can like direct message the Broken Yolk podcast.
Or how about
Instagram.
direct message Sam Phillips?
Sam Phillips or Dylan Business. I have a photo of it.
Oh, you have a
too.
photo too? Okay.
So we can send it to you and kind of give some context, but there was a letter given out to the residents of this dorm hall, just patting on Belmont, describing certain activities that were being done that were not appreciated.
It had to do with showers and drains being clogged.
And you don't need any more context.
That's it. That's all we're saying. Okay.
Well, they don't need
moving on.
Else. Bottom line, it's hilarious, and so please text us if you want to see it because it's pretty funny. Willow.
Yeah.
Wow. Glad to have you on the podcast.
So glad to be here.
This section.
But talking about the intensity of the music industry is very apparent. I mean, especially we just had a good 20-minute conversation about branding yourself through your name and your stage name, and so something that maybe Sam can attest to a little bit and kind of tell this story about in your music business class, when he called you all up to talk about producing an album and how many people that took.
Yeah.
So that's something that always intimidates me is the absolute size of producing a song, producing an album, producing a show, a movie, whatever you want it to be. The steps that go into it, the bigger it gets, is insane.
But here's the thing, that's the absolute biggest. So, for example, I put out an album in 2020 by myself without any of the things that he was talking about. I kind of acted as every step of that.
Yay.
Yes, you did.
And yes, it was no easy task, but I think it was just a wake-up call to the students who have never put out music and think it's really easy, and just about how many different and who do, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but who don't have the capabilities to be an instrumentalist, a producer, a writer, and a vocalist at the same time.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Right, and so it was kind of a good wake-up call at the first day of class, but yeah.
But so basically the gist of the exercise was he called up someone who was a songwriter. And then he called up people who would be background musicians, and then he called up people who were executives, and then promoters and stuff. And so eventually the entire class was at the front of the classroom.
Yeah, there's nobody sitting in the seats.
Describing how many it would take to be able to get this album going. And so that's just something that, have you ever felt intimidated by that size, Willow? Especially the in today's culture, in today's social media frenzy, the quickness of how everything happens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I'm honestly most intimidated by people like you. And this is in a good way. I admire you so much of just you are able to completely produce and create your album by yourself, and I don't have those capabilities like you were saying.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely have the performance aspect, my vocals are there, I can write songs, I play a little bit of piano, but I can't produce an album, I can't just make it by myself. And so I know that I need to reach out and find those other people to work with me, and I think that is honestly so scary to me for a bunch of different reasons, primarily being how do I just go to somebody and be hey, this is my work, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Do you want to do this
totally
thing for me?
Saying. Yeah. For sure. And I've been that person for other people in the past. And I mean, tomorrow morning I'm having a friend come over. I mean, even tonight after this podcast is done, a friend's coming over and I'm tracking her vocals for one of her songs and stuff. So, yeah.
I just think it's so difficult to be able to, with that kind of system of being able to find someone to work with it. Obviously to produce music is important, but when you have someone who's helping you produce an album and helping you put out even a song, but just the image that you want to be portraying through your music, I think it's really difficult to find someone who is aligned in your values and in your image and in your vision. And so I think that is something that, to me at least, is very nerve-wracking, is that, like you said, you're trusting someone with this thing that you've crafted yourself, you put so much into, and then you're handing it off to someone else.
Absolutely. And I also think that for me, part of the thing is since I am not on the producing end and I don't know what I'm doing, I can't say oh, this is what I want you to do, this is how I would want you to make this sound. And I would never want somebody to pour their work into like my music and then get it back and be like, this is not this is not what I was envisioning, but I can't like clearly articulate what I would be envisioning for that. Right. And I think it's so difficult. And another thing too is just sharing your music in general with other creators who are working on their own type of music is very you have to be really careful, because there's always that like opportunity of theft. And I don't think that it would be theft like, oh, I'm intentionally going to steal this with many of the people, especially that we know. It would just be like, oh, like they kind of just have that tune in their ear now, and then they so release something and you're like, that's mine.
Landon and I, like, we share the room obviously, and I hear his melodies, he hears mine. And so the other day I think I was playing like a guitar part and like starting to write a song, like trying to nail out the melody or something, and he was like, bro, that's literally my song. And I've done that to him too. And it's funny, like you don't even like you don't even know that you're doing it. It's just internalize it so much, which is so for the people who are for all the lawsuits that are going on where people sue, I like, to me that always is so funny, because I think it's very difficult to be able to prove like, right, you use that chord progression and that drum beat or like that, similar rhyme vocal scheme. Production rhyme scheme. And so it's like, yes, but also at the same time,
I mean, how many people on the planet have used like 451? Like, how are you
exactly gonna... or like the words like I love you babe or something. Or the ad-libs. Anybody ever think about ad-libs? Like, everybody uses yeah and whoa or something, right? Yeah. Whoa, right? That's like, bro, that you're literally copying every other rapper on the planet Earth. That was unnecessary, buddy.
I don't think so.
Link in bio.
I think that was
Part
absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Go check out Sam Phillips' music.
So what you were saying reminded me of something. So do you ever find that like you're inspired and then you go to like you want to write a song or you have a great idea, and then you bring that idea to somebody, maybe it's a producer who you want to help you with the track, or maybe it's a friend like who's a fellow songwriter, and like their interpretation of it, or like maybe the producer's like, oh, we should do this with it, and it's not at all what you want. Does that ever like shoot down your inspiration? Because sometimes, and I'm totally not trying to diss this person, but sometimes I will like, come up with a cool lyric or melody, and I'll like, shout across the room to Lynn, and I'll be like, bro, like, what do you think of this? And then he'll kind of like, yeah. And then I'll just be like, my inspiration level kind of goes down.
Yeah.
Do you ever like feel it?
So yeah, I definitely relate to that. I have had, especially with instructors, I find this a lot, because I have a very difficult time sharing my music with like my peers. I don't know why. Yeah. But yeah, specifically with instructors, I think that they always have tried to like change my music, change my sound specifically. Very recently, I had one of my teachers, I shared my music with her, and she essentially told me, she was like, you need to shift everything down because you need to exclusively belt this part, like you go too high. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want this part to be belted. And I think that especially within this community here at Belmont, and I don't mean to diss Belmont, there is the kind of shift for pop of like, all of you need to sound like belters. Yeah. And I think that does actually limit you. It limits your range so much, because if you think about like artists like Ariana Grande, like she has a huge range, she has that powerful voice up at top, but she's not belting. And so to be kind of shot down and told like, you need to change this song exclusively to belt, which is not my like,
that's not your style.
Yeah it was really kind of frustrating for me.
For sure. I think that whether they're a professor or a vocal coach, they're nowadays trying to think about what works and what has worked in the past, where I think they should be focusing on like how to make you the best you can be. Mm-hmm. So taking like the unique tones that you have, or the unique sitch that you have, and then just helping you like slide into that pocket a little better.
And it's also incredibly confusing to have to come in and be like, yeah, this is my sound, this is how I'm different. Like,
Yeah.
I do have that, like, you know, powerful lower section, but I also can go really high and have them be like, you need to have your signature sound while sounding like everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating.
Well, that's so, I mean, I feel like that's partly because it's like the decompression of everything into an academic site,
Yes.
an academic, pursuit to be able to teach this type of commercialized.
That's so true, yeah.
And I think that at a certain point it is very difficult to be able to, continue to have that sort of, that pull towards expressionism, but then also we know that you need to be able to do to be able to work, because the goal is to be able to work. And like, if you can belt as a backup singer, if you can belt as a pop artist, like if you can belt as all those things, you'll be able to get a job. That's at least how I see it in the I can see portions of that in my education too for theater, and obviously you can see the portions of that in everyone's education, but it's particularly challenging because it's an academic approach to expression.
And you want to respect these guys, because a lot of the people that Belmont puts in front of us are like esteemed musicians, or like they've made it, or they're like making a living fully off of music, or they have had like an illustrious career, right? And so you want to like take their knowledge bites, but you also feel like they're like, when you kind of want to dismiss them when they're putting you in this box.
It's also like, you specifically in regards to what I was talking about earlier, it's like she was guiding me in this way, and I'm like, that worked for you for what you wanted to do, but you also didn't pursue being an individual artist. You were definitely you were a performer, and you sang other people's songs, and you were very successful in it. You did a great job, but I want to like branch beyond that. I don't ever want to just stop at only being a singer and performer of other people's songs. 100%. I want to be my own artist.
Yeah, 100%. And that kind of breaks into, as an artist, we're asked all the time, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself? What do you think? Man.
In 10 years.
In 10 years.
7.7 years.
Yeah, what's the backup plan? There is no backup plan. This is the plan. I mean, you don't go to people in other majors and industries and go, well, what's your backup plan?
Exactly. And then they're like, but this is more reliable. And it's just like, yeah, okay.
I mean,
not really. Everything in life is uncertain, so.
And I mean, especially with music, I don't think that people like understand that companies and things like that will recognize that music is very difficult to do. And so even if there are so many people that have degrees in things that have nothing to do with their jobs.
Exactly. Yes.
And so like, as long as, I think honestly, like companies and businesses will see, like, as long as you like put in the work and the dedication to like pursue a specific set of training, like you're willing to put in that effort, like they'll be more open to seeing you.
100%. Is that so? Do you ever have, as my voice teacher always used to say, shout out to Ann Benson, but as an artist, you just have to get used to cooping together an income from 6 or 7 different places. And so, do you see yourself?
For sure.
I guess I should say, is there such a stark difference between, do you have a vision of what reality might be, but then do you also have a vision of what, your expectations and what your hopes and dreams are? Because I guess for me, just to give a little bit of an explanation for, like, my hopes and dreams are Broadway. My hopes and dreams are, a successful Broadway career, and then jumping off from there to be able to continue performing.
Yeah.
But reality for me is also, well, I might have to, make sure I pick up teaching tips so I can teach on the side and make money, and then also work on, do I start doing more acting positions and voice acting, and how do I make sure I can pull together as many incomes so I can live off of my music and my art. So is there something, do you kind of have that, do you have those types of visions ever, or do you have a very singular path that you're thinking?
I think that deciding to go into music was a very difficult choice for me, and I'll get a little more into that in just a second. But I think that for this at least, I'm not sure that I would be happy pursuing a career in music that is not being that like performer, being an artist. Like I don't think I would ever want to go and necessarily like be a music educator. And I know that for some people that's like what they would be okay with that. They're like, you know, if I don't make this as an artist or a performer, like I would be happy teaching music.
Have this side thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that is true for me. For music, like this is kind of just I'm giving this everything. It's like you have to just go for it.
Ride
in
or
my
die.
opinion,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to put in 100% and commit to like this is what I'm doing. I am going to make it, and if I don't, there is no like, oh, I'm going to go into music education. Like this is it.
Right.
And I mean, going into music again was such a difficult decision for me because at heart I do consider myself a little bit of an academic, and so you know, all throughout high school I performed like very high academically, and it's something that I was actually, you know, passionate about and I really enjoyed. And so to kind of set that to the side and make the decision to solely pursue music at this point was very, very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And it's something that even now I'm considering, you know, maybe I'll get a minor in something else that's academic.
Right.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that like regarding my musical path, it's all or nothing. There is no in between, no half measures.
Yeah.
Right, you got to choose we're you know, we only have one life to live, and you got to choose like your passion, you know, right? Like passion is and happiness and fulfillment and stuff like that is way more important than like money or certainty, you know. Like I just feel like that's the
and
case.
that's something that's interesting, because I always talk with my sister, and she's in the medical field, and she always talks about with one of my sisters, and we always talk about how, you know, like she is, you know, she enjoys what she's doing, but the biggest thing she wants is just to have security. She wants to make enough money so that she can have a trip to Nashville and come out and see me and like have that security. And that's her that reflects her passion, which is she's very passionate about her friends and family. And you know, bringing people together, and she's very passionate about you know, creating moments with people and being able to you know, really bring people together. And so I think that's something that's really interesting, is the fact that you are so singular.
I think it's an issue that, you know, varies greatly depending on the individual. So, you know, maybe, you know, security and just like knowing where the next paycheck is going to come from is like important to somebody, while, you know, pursuing their passions in that like almost like a risk factor, which I love. I don't know, maybe I'm, you know, speaking too early before I'm actually living on the streets, but you know, I love the risk factor. It's like beautiful.
That's like who's the actress who's pretty cool? She's great.
Meryl Streep?
No.
It's kind of vague.
The actor is it's a female.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, okay. Guess who? She was in Mother. She was in The Hunger Games.
Oh.
She was very neat.
Are we talking about Jennifer? Yeah.
What's her?
Jennifer Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Good. Sorry, Sam. Yeah.
I
I'm so happy now.
Yay!
Here's a story of her where she got just picked up by a modeling agency, and then and I think she quit. She was like doing high school and this modeling agency, and then moved to New York, quit high school.
Wow.
And was getting jobs and doing this.
She was a dropout.
She was a dropout, and she was in New York living in this hovel, rat-infested apartment, and her parents came up to visit her, and they were like, we're kind of worried that like you're living in this, but she was having the time of her life. She said she loved it. She was going out for modeling jobs, for acting jobs, and she was so happy, and then she got picked up, and she
That's crazy.
is now one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, and so biggest actresses, excuse me. And so it's one of those things that obviously we all can't be Jennifer Lawrence, but that passion and that drive exists clearly within you and clearly within all of us. And so that's the thing that people always, it kind of gets on my nerves when people are like, well, what if it doesn't happen? It's like, that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about when it's going to happen.
Right. And
sorry, you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think one of the things too is like even I would even critique your mindset of like, oh well, we can't all be Jennifer Lawrence. It's like, but why not me?
Yeah.
Somebody is upcoming. Someone is next. Someone is gonna be the next big star. Why not me?
Why not?
Yeah,
Why not
and
me?
people will say that's like, oh, that's like, you know, cocky. Well, not really. It's just like, you have a dream and you are prepared to work hard. I think
it's the dedication
cocky,
and the drive.
It's cocky when you say that and then you're like, but I don't want to do work.
Right.
I don't want to work hard for this.
Right.
But I mean, going back to our good friend Will Smith, his movie Pursuit of Happiness. Have you seen that?
That's my dad, by the way.
He's Will Smith. Will Smith.
Have y'all seen Pursuit of Happiness?
I've not.
Have you? Oh, okay. So in it, this Will Smith and his son, they're very poor, right? And he's pursuing a job trying to keep his family alive. He goes through a divorce. Like it's really messy, and through a bunch of stressful times and hard work and just passion, motivation, all that stuff, he like makes it and is able to support his family and actually becomes quite a wealthy person. And so I think it's just like the universe is hardwired to almost demand that hard work of us to get, where our, passions are taking us. And so, yeah, I don't think it's cocky at all if you say, why not me, if you're prepared to work hard.
And I think kind of with that, I think there's two things that I think about that. One is I've heard this quote, I don't know it exactly, but it's like once you decide that you really truly want something, the whole universe will conspire for you to get it. And so I also think that I think that to say that it's just hard work and dedication is not true. I think that there's so much luck that goes into anyone succeeding in any field.
Of course.
But I think that also the more opportunities you give yourself to have that luck, the more likely you're going to get lucky.
So like this is, a couple of weeks ago I posted a short video on Instagram that got like 30,000 views in a day, right? And so if I, obviously that was like luck. I did nothing to get that. I guess the video is kind of cool, but like other than that, I posted other cool videos before. Right. And so if I had not posted that, like that wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't have gotten like some new like attraction to my music, right? And so it's like, yeah, I totally get what you mean, like giving an opportunity for like the luck to like take hold or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
So.
And that kind of interests me into the idea of how, in the terms of like making your own luck and being able to try at every single door and every opportunity that you can, has your decision to be able to come to school here and study music and everything like that, has that come under criticism, even though you've said you have that mindset of creating your own luck? How, what I'm trying to ask is, how does your academic approach to music fit into creating your own luck and fit into creating your own who you are?
I think that honestly, in pursuing music, it's much more of just simply a hiatus from my academic endeavors, which has been actually surprisingly difficult for me. And obviously I still have like academic classes, like I have my honors classes, but it's not the same as going to, like high school and having these classes that are all like academically focused and, having music kind of to the wayside. And now that music is coming like into focus, I really think that I can take some of, that academic drive that I do have and just focus and hone in on my own craft and my own work and try and work with that.
That's great. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because that is something that I'm certain we all have gotten, is a criticism of, why are you going into this degree? Why are you choosing this major?
My mother has always been very, very supportive of me pursuing music as my career, but the rest of my family has been a little...
Does that ever... How does it work for you? Because I know it works different for people. Does that like sort of... I don't know, I don't want to say backlash, but I guess backlash, does that motivate you to succeed? Like, so you can almost like prove them wrong in a sense, or is that just all discouragement?
I think it's honestly very neutral for me. In some sense, I know where their concerns are coming from, but also I look at people who are like older, especially like adults who have like had their families and they've essentially done what they're going to do with their career. And I think that many of them are not particularly happy. Like, they're not like, my life's work was fulfilling. I don't think that you can go to very many people and ask them, you know, is your job fulfilling? Do you like your job?
Right, yeah.
I think for the majority, it's just, you know, I do my job because, you know, it made me successful and I had money to do the things that I want. And
Right.
for me, it's, why weren't you doing the things that you want in order to live? And I think I think that, you know, there are so many opportunities to do things that you want, and you might have to live, you know, with a little less monetary, you might have fewer things.
Or even
But
hours,
you will have the experiences that you want, and you'll be able to be doing something that you love. And I think that that's the trade-off, is, would you rather be able to buy experiences or have experiences?
That's such a good quote, like,
Fantastic.
that you said, like, there's two sides of the coin. It's like, you either make money to do what you want, or you do what you want to make money.
To make money.
That's
Yeah.
like, that's going on the Instagram, my friends.
That's really. And that's on the Insta.
At Broken Yolk.
No, it's a fantastic, because, and at the end of the day, people, as much as people try to get it, they don't. You know, it's something where if you're going for a financial degree because that's what makes sense for you, because that's what makes sense for your, you know, situation, that's amazing. And maybe you are extremely passionate about finances, but, you know, the reason that we're here is because we see a point to what we're doing, and we see a future for us to be able to do that. And so I think that's a fantastic
For sure.
kind of Is that sorry, you were gonna say a question.
Oh yeah, Willow, I'm gonna ask you a very upfront, frank question.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be famous?
Honestly, this actually goes way deeper than you were probably intending with this.
No,
but
I love it.
I want to be able to have as many different experiences in my life that I can. I want to be able to see as much as I can from as many different viewpoints as I can. And obviously, you know, being famous, being rich is obviously going to be very nice. Who doesn't, you know, I mean, there are a lot of people who want that. But I also think, personally, this goes to a religious and spiritual side for me of, you know, choosing to do like the right things and choosing to do what I think is, it's like, it's not like the right things, like it's capital R, like capital right, like what is good.
So Republican. I'm kidding. Sorry.
And I want to be able to see, you know, it almost comes into like temptation of sorts of just like, can you go into the limelight? Can you have everything be offered to you and still maintain who you are
And still be grounded?
And like maintain your values, maintain who you are, not give yourself away and get lost in it all. I want to see how far I can go while still being me.
Yeah.
I get that. I like, because you see so many pop stars and like famous people like kind of go off the rails, and so I want to see like, because I can't imagine that, because I think of, I'm like, okay, if somebody gave me $40 million and, you know, I had 80 million followers on Instagram, right, would I just go off the rails? And I can't imagine that I would. But, you know, we're so different than them, like in the sense where it's like it changes you mentally almost. Like we are the same as them in the fact that we're all humans, but in the sense that like they have so many more eyes on them. And so I get that in the sense where I kind of want to see what that's like too, and just like see if like I could even do better, because I think we think we can do better, you know. We're like, oh, you know, just don't go out and drink or don't do drugs, like, but, or, you know, don't,
Have you,
I don't know, get canceled, but it's harder than it looks.
have either of you read the book Siddhartha?
I've not. I don't read books.
It is,
Sorry.
I don't understand.
Although you're the studious person, so.
Yeah.
it's an incredible book. I highly suggest that everyone reads it. But essentially,
Siddhartha?
Can you say the name?
Siddhartha.
Siddhartha.
Who's it by?
Yeah. Oh, excellent
Is
question.
Siddhartha a person, or is that what does Siddhartha mean?
So, do you know like Siddhartha Gautama, like the Buddha? Like,
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, essentially, this is like a philosophically based book, and essentially,
Okay.
I'm gonna break it down like very, very bare bones.
Do
of
it.
This.
Break the yolk.
There is there is a man who is a religiously based man, and he decides at some point he needs to go off, have his own journey to figure out himself and things like that. And he ends up kind of falling into this life of just like sin and hedonism and luxury and things like that. And eventually at the end of the book, he has given all of that up. He's let all of that go, and he is able to gain enlightenment. And it's kind of since he was able to be that religious, pious man and also go all the way over to the other side of living in a life of sin, he's seen everything. And so he's able to understand it. And I, in a semi-similar fashion, want to be able to go and have the opportunity to not necessarily live like the hedonistic life of luxury that is so common with famous people, but I want to see, like, would I be able to still maintain who I am and not get lost in that.
Just like almost proving it to yourself.
Right, and I think that it's much more, the fame is much more an end goal to my own personal goal of an enlightenment of sorts, of just understanding. And I think, again, that this goes into a lot more religious and spiritual depth than we can probably cover here.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, yeah. Interesting.
Definitely, especially the fact that, like you said before, Sam, we wish that we could do better, but that is a very interesting, being in that you want those experiences. So that's so interesting that you live wanting the experiences. I've never thought about, not weird or interesting, but I've just never lived like that. And I've never had that mindset, and it sounds, it sounds as if you approach each day as an adventure and each new experience with like a hopeful heart, because you're like, well, it's something new for me to do you attribute your upraising to be able to come to that conclusion of life where you're so excited to experience, or just how would you attribute it to anything? Or
I honestly don't know. I think that it's just through some culmination of my life experiences, I've just come to the conclusion that you should live for what you want to be doing. For example, like, this is a very minor example, but for this summer, I got a summer job, and my summer job was working at Boston Sailing Center.
Oh, nice.
And I loved it. There were definitely some times that I was very cranky, but as is the case with life.
Yeah.
But I loved being out on the water. Sailing is something I'm super passionate about. It makes me so happy. There's no other feeling like it for me. And I also got to...
You should minor in sailing. I'm kidding.
Create the Belmont sailing team.
In our
there's no lakes.
State.
Landlocked state, no lakes at all.
How ironic to win the sailing national championship and be a landlocked state. Be pretty cool. You were saying before about experiences. And
not only was I able to, go and experience that every day, I was able to, like, share that with other people. I was able to teach them how to, be capable by themselves in something that I'm passionate about. And there was, several opportunities for me to make more money someplace else during the summer, but I knew that I wasn't going to have as good experiences there. I was just going to be doing, like, the job. I wasn't going to be present. And it was an hour commute into Boston, both ways. And there you had to pay for parking every day. No subsidized parking, and the traffic and everything. But it was worth it because I was doing something that I genuinely loved and was passionate about. And so ultimately I had to spend a little more time, and I didn't make as much money, but there's absolutely no regrets about doing something that I love over, doing a job that I didn't actually truly enjoy to, have a higher monetary gain.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's fantastic. I think that's a wonderful note to end it and leave you for this night. You know, we really appreciate having you on this podcast. You're a fantastic guest, a wonderful human being. Is there anything you'd like to shamelessly plug, such as social media or anything like that? Or
yeah, I mean, you know, how else are you gonna find out what fame is like if you don't get more followers?
Followers.
I'm gonna get famous from this podcast exclusively.
Exclusively, right, Dylan?
What,
yeah.
All 3 followers we have.
3. Hey, we have a nice.
We have like 30, but it's okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to brag. But no, yeah. Instagram handles, anything like that.
Any singles dropping soon?
I have some music that is in the works. I need to get it to some people to help produce. So, Sam,
send it. Email me, bro. Let's talk.
But yeah, my Instagram handle is Willow S Sings. Maybe I'll like create like highlights or something and post like little stuff on there.
Sick, yeah, and
maybe
we'll
start a YouTube
we'll
channel.
put that.
We'll
We'll
see.
put the link to her socials in the description below.
Of course, yeah. So thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Sunday morning for you all, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Yes.
Yeah, be sure to press that like button, because what it does is it tells the people at YouTube, they're like looking at their board of videos and they're like, which video should we like serve to the people today?
Beast.
And then
Random
you know
Asian
they decide like
Just
which video based on
nothing
how many likes it has. So if you could like it and then don't forget to subscribe, that'd be sick.
It'd be wonderful. We
All right.
really appreciate
Have the
it.
best week. We love you so much.
Yes. Tune in next week for our episode, and yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Yes, love you. Bye.